What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and welcome to another episode of our First Down Training show. Today, we're going to be talking about just something that really bothers me about high school football and youth football. Then we're going to be getting into some current events and answering some questions that you guys have left from a previous episode of this show. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's get started. So fellas, I was at a training session this past Sunday, and we had a couple guys there, a couple guys from out of the area. I'm in Southern California. We had a couple guys from Northern California, a couple guys that lived about 2 hours away from where I was, and a couple guys local in my area where I train at. And the big topic of the session, we spent maybe about 20 minutes talking about it, so I wanted to address this on a video, was how in the hell are all of these 7th graders, 8th graders, and guys who have never really played any varsity football time or freshmen in high school getting all of these scholarship offers? So that would be something I call a fake offer. Now, I've talked about this a little bit before, but maybe not this in depth of what a fake offer actually is. So let's talk about it, right? So there's really two types of fake offers. There's a verbal offer. Well, all of these are verbal offers. You guys got to understand that nothing is official until you sign on the dotted line on signing day, right? Signing day is the official, right? So you could get technically an official offer, but you might do something, you might act a certain way. Even if you're committed to the school, they could pull that offer. So it's nothing's official really until you sign, but there's a lot of things that are kind of it's pretty dark, if I'm being honest, about the whole college football world when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to offers, that you guys need to be aware of, because I just don't want you guys to get taken advantage of, number one. And number two, I don't want you guys to get discouraged when you look at some kid and he's like, man, he's got all these offers and he's my age, and it's oh man, I'm never going to make it, because most of the time it's BS, you guys. So there's non-committable offers, and then there's something called verbal offers, and then there's offers that you generally can pay for. So we're going to talk about paid for offers, then verbal offers, and then the non-committable offers. So let's talk about the paid for offers, because this is one that happens all the dang time. So something that college coaches generally do is that when in the recruiting world, everybody generally puts a lot of pressure on athletes for the first offer, because once you get an offer, what colleges generally do, I live in California, right? So our bordering states are what? Nevada, Arizona, states up north, Washington, Oregon, those types of states, right? Those are the bordering states. So generally what happens at a college program is you have graduate assistants. Graduate assistants are coaches that are not really getting paid. They're assistants. They generally still are enrolled at the school, but they're essentially they do kind of the grunt work for the college, right? So let's use USC, for example. They got a staff full of GAs. They probably got 10 graduate assistants. If I say GA, that's what I'm referring to. So they got 10 GAs. Their job in the recruiting lens is to pay attention to what goes on X, formerly known as Twitter. So if an athlete in a bordering state posts an offer saying, or in the same state, saying that they got an offer to XYZ school, their job is to take a look at that kid, maybe follow him on Twitter, pay attention to it, and be okay, let's check out his film. Right? So that's why there's so much pressure on the first offer, because once the first one comes in, everybody says that the rest of them start rolling in. Right? Now, here's what all the recruiting street agents, I refer to them as street agents because that's what they are, and that's a term in the college football world that they refer to these recruiting agents as. Guys, college coaches spend thousands, hundreds of thousands on their own recruiting. They have their own connections. Why in the hell would they go to some off-brand guy who they don't know, who apparently is some recruiting guru, to get their information when they could just do their own scouting? Right? Unless they have a deep relationship with that guy, generally it doesn't happen. But these recruiting agents, here's their business model. They will get a kid and they will say, hey, listen, I'm going to get you an offer to this school. Okay? And what happens is that these families will pay this guy a sum of money, right? And this happens all the frickin' time in Southern California. There's 3 guys that do it. 2 of them are quarterback coaches that I know of. And then one of them is just a coach at a school, and he's, kind of does his own little thing, but he's a known scam artist. He had to stop doing stuff in Orange County, California, because everybody was dude, this guy's a scam. So he moved into another county where he could still run his scam, right? And so essentially what that guy would do, and I'm not saying this is the exact numbers that everybody does, but this was the numbers that was relayed to me by a kid who went through this and essentially got screwed over. So this guy will charge $5,000 per offer. And it's this, again, this isn't the exact business model that everybody does, but this was this guy's model. And this is what you got to be aware of, because guys, there are plenty of people out there that want to they're very motivated, very self-absorbed. And by self-motivated, I don't mean it in a good way. I mean that it's self-interest motivated. What can I get out of this, right? They're not necessarily trying to help anybody. They're just trying to help themselves, right? Which is no way to live, in my opinion, especially when you're dealing with kids and kids' futures, right? But he would charge $5,000 per offer. He takes the $5,000. He knows knows a lot of assistant coaches, like an inside linebackers coach, a middle linebackers coach, a DB coach, right? And I'm gonna tell you this right now, at college programs, especially the D1s, if you're not a head coach or a coordinator, generally you don't have the jurisdiction to give an offer, right? So what he will do is he will pay that guy $2,000. This was the numbers that were given me, $2,000. That guy will give the kid a verbal offer that means absolutely zero. The kid may not even have any film. He might be just a freshman or even an 8th grader, right? And so what that kid's gonna do is he's gonna post that offer on Twitter in hopes that all these other schools see that and then they start taking a look at him. But here's the problem with the business model, and this is why the guy got ran out of town, is that he was doing this with kids that had no business of getting any type of Power 5 offer. So all these schools would see it and they'd be like, this doesn't make any sense, and then they wouldn't pay attention to him, right? But the parents are like, oh my God, this guy he's a guru. He got us an offer. Let's pay him another $5,000 and another $5,000. And it was just a complete, utter disaster where people were threatening to sue. People were very pissed off. Of course, it was all cash transactions. No official invoice, no official documentation of it, so the guy's probably not paying taxes. Whole screwed up and flawed system. But the thing I want you guys to understand is that happens. And I didn't know this as a player because I would see these guys getting offers and I'd be like, oh man, like you must be really good. Like, damn, you know, like I wish I had an offer like that, yada, yada, whatever, etc. And I don't want you guys to get into that mode because it's very discouraging. It's very unmotivating. And when you're paying attention to other people and you're paying that comparison game, they say it all the time, comparison is the thief of joy. It sounds cliche, but it's the truth. You get down on yourself, and that's the whole problem with like social media today. You see all these people flexing their cars and their watches when they just probably rented it for the day, and everybody gets upset like, oh man, you know, like, and the guys who do it are like, oh, I'm doing it to motivate you. It's like, no, you're freaking not. You're showing off, right? But it makes people get discouraged. It's the same thing, right? So this is a real thing that happens all over the country with schools. You ever see a kid and it just doesn't make sense? Gut instinct is like, that guy's not an offer guy. He's not that good. Chances are your gut's probably right? So that is something that goes on in the college world. Now, are there kids that do that who maybe are college caliber, they're just doing it to get the first one? Absolutely, but the problem is those guys were probably gonna get recruited anyways, and if you would have just done a little bit of self-promotion, gone out to some camps, done certain things, you probably would have gotten the offer in the first place, right? So like, I get the business model, but you're ripping off people at a certain point. And here's the thing, it's not a real offer. If the skills don't back it up, it really don't matter. So that's the first type of fake offer that happens, especially when you see guys when it doesn't make sense, because you cannot get a legitimate scholarship offer until the summer before your junior year. So for all you guys watching this that are going into your junior year, hell yeah, you could get an offer, right? And it's a committable offer, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But this whole pay for offers scam is complete crap. Sometimes it doesn't even necessarily need to be paid for. It's just like, hey, could you do me a favor? Right? And that's like when you see like, you know, the social media kids, like, you know, like their dads are like, oh, my 7th grader got this offer. It's crap. Not real, complete BS. Now, that brings me to the point of it being a verbal offer, which means absolutely zero. Like I've seen kids who say like, oh, I got this offer, you know, like I talked to the coach on Twitter, he wanted to offer me, he went through my high school coach, he said they wanted to offer me. Like generally guys, when you get a real offer, it's a very formal setting. They've met you, they've met your parents, they've had you on campus. That's when usually a real offer comes about, unless you're like a serious dude who's like a 4-star, 5-star, and you're getting offers from everywhere and it just like physically doesn't make sense for you to be in 10 places at once, right? But the thing is, it's verbal. It's non-binding. I'm offering you $1 million right now. You're never going to see that money because it's verbal. I can back out of it anytime. You can't take me to court and be like, hey, he offered me $1 million. I'm like, no, he didn't. We never signed anything. You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe there's rules around certain areas of life that do that, but like, you know, in real estate or whatever the hell it is. But at the same time, guys, it's not binding. Nope, the party is not, you know, like I guess you could say held to the agreement. The school is not held to that offer, etc. Now, the thing you might be wondering is, well, why do colleges do it with these like younger kids, right? Like, why do colleges do it with like freshmen or sophomore, right? When so much can happen by the time they're a senior and they're signing to that school. It's really just because like if the kid does pan out, then they're going to be like, hey, we were one of the first people to offer you. You should commit to our school, right? I've seen that. Like there was a quarterback that went to the high school that I went to who had offers from everywhere in the country. And granted, he was very talented, like, you know, 6'3", could throw the hell out of the ball. And he got an offer to Auburn when he was like an 8th grader, right? Now, college coaches have been doing this a long time, and he never paid for a recruiting service. He never went through some recruiting agent. He just got the verbal offer from Auburn, right? Now, here's the thing. He could have blown out his knee, just played awful, been terrible, and then guess what? Like, Auburn's going to be like, yeah, go kick rocks. Like, we're not entitled to give you that offer. That wasn't even a real offer. So, the reason why they do it is because that kid ended up being a 5-star guy, you know, had a really good high school career. He had offers from everywhere. He ended up going to USC, but, you know, like, at the end of his decision-making time, Auburn was on his list of, like, top 5 schools that he was going to go to. Because I guarantee you, Auburn's like, hey, listen, we were the first people to offer you. Like, we believed in you this whole entire time. So it's a way to bet on somebody with no repercussions. Imagine all of you guys would be gambling addicts if you could bet on a sporting event, and if the team that you bet on lost, you'd get your money back, but if they won, you would win. So it's like everybody would do that. So that's why colleges ultimately do it. And sometimes they do it for hype to kind of promote their camps, because a big source of revenue for colleges in the off season is their camp circuit. So if they offer a kid, that's going to make some headlines like, oh, we offered this freshman. What do you think a bunch of freshmen are going to do? Oh, they're offering freshmen. I want to go to their camp. And then that's more money in their pocket, and then the system continues to go. So it's all about hype when it comes to the verbal offer thing as well. Now, there's another type of offer that I feel is very, very common, and this is for those of you that will receive a scholarship offer one day, and that is called a non-committable offer. Now, before we get into non-committable offers, you guys, if you're a quarterback or wide receiver watching this video and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, fellas, we're traveling out to 15 cities all across the entire U.S. for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. So guys, if you want some more information, if you want to sign up, go to that very first link in the description below. That's where you can get all of the information. Our camps, you guys, we started promoting these about a month ago because, you know, the last 2 years have been crazy. Our camps have filled up insanely fast. They've sold out, and we've had to turn away a lot of people. So we opened it up a little bit earlier, and we're getting a ton of signups, like way faster than we have the past couple of years. So guys, make sure you take advantage of the fact that we have open spots still. Very first link in that description below. Our next camp is going to be in San Francisco, California, then Orlando, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona, Columbia, South Carolina. Then we'll be heading out to Seattle, Washington, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Nashville, Tennessee, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Denver, Colorado, Columbus, Ohio, Boston, Massachusetts, Salt Lake City, Utah, and finishing it off in Los Angeles, California. So guys, want some more information? Very first link in that description below. We'd love to have you there. So let's talk about non-committable offers. Then we'll get into some current events and answer your guys' questions, fellas, because we really do appreciate the support on this. So we want to get back to you guys the best we can by answering your questions. So non-committable offers. That's essentially, okay, so like let's say, for example, you know, you started on varsity as a sophomore, you know, you had a really good year, going into your junior year, and you could get an official offer, right? So you can get a committable offer, right? Because coaches want you to commit, and they want you to commit early, especially at the D1 level. Nowadays, the harsh reality of it is that getting a scholarship offer in high school, the chances of that, especially at a D1, D2, D3, NAIA, different story, right? But they still do this, but the chances of a D1 offer have decreased dramatically, because if I'm a college coach, I could buy any player that I want if I have enough money, right? Like, look at Bryce Underwood, how much he got freaking paid to go to Michigan. Look at the guy who transferred, like Carson Beck, who transferred to the U. How much money these guys get, and they could buy any player that they want if they have the alumni support and they have these collectives that have just unlimited funds, right? That's the way college football is nowadays, and they could do that by going into the transfer portal, and they could go to JUCOs. So the numbers are decreasing in terms of like your likelihood to get a scholarship offer out of high school the old traditional way, right? Now again, colleges could always recruit from JUCO, but the portal wasn't as crazy as what it is now, right? So that's just the reality of the situation. I want you to understand that. So colleges can give an offer deemed a non-committable offer, which at the end of the day is a verbal offer, right? All of these offers, you got to understand, are verbal, you guys. Until you sign your letter of intent as a senior, that is the only binding contract that you have with that school, because a lot can happen, and we've seen it happen over and over again. There was a guy that went to the high school that I went to who signed to a D1 school, and he wanted to get out of it, but he had already signed his letter of intent. The school's like, hell no, you can't. Like, you're going to get suspended. If you get out of this contract, go somewhere else, like, you're going to get suspended. You're not going to be able to play your freshman year. We're going to give you a game suspension. We're going to talk to the NCAA. Like, it's a serious thing when you sign that letter of intent, right? But the offer thing is very different. So what a college will do, like let's say I'm Georgia. Let's say I'm the head coach at Georgia and I want to get a quarterback. And I'm looking at high school players and there's 10 quarterbacks on my board that I want. I'm going to offer number 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way down to 10. I'm going to give them an offer. But a committable offer would probably only be for 1, 2, or 3. I'd be happy with those 3 players at the top of my board. 4 through 10, let's say the number 8th ranked guy on your team is like, coach, I want to commit. They're not going to do it, guys. They're going to be like, well, you can't really commit because it's non-committable. because their top 3 guys are their guys. If those 3 guys go elsewhere, okay, 4, 5, and 6 turn into committables, right? So the reason why I say this to you is because when you're in that position, when you get an offer, that is your first question that you need to ask. Coach, is this a committable offer? The reason why you do that is you gauge their level of interest, okay? I'm a firm believer in committing early these days. Before, I was kind of like, hey, weigh out your options if you have the luxury to do that. A lot of you watching this will take any offer because you just want to go to college and play. Fantastic. That's how I was as a player. But if you have that situation where like, okay, you know, like a lot of schools are interested in me. This team was one of the ones who offered me first. You know, I want to commit. You got to ask. You have to ask, is this committable? Because if they say yes, you know they're serious about you. If they say no, they're not serious about you. They have other guys that they're interested in. You know what I mean? It's like a girl, like you're talking to a girl and she's talking to 5 other dudes, and the guy that she really actually likes is, you know, like that's what she truly knows. And so you gotta act like, hey, he's actually interested. And she might play around with you a little bit. She might say no, but at the end of the day, it's still no. So you gotta know, okay, I'm gonna move on. Same idea with colleges, you guys. Like it's like if it's a committable offer, okay, they're interested in me, that's a viable option. Maybe I think about committing there early so I can lock it in. They found their guy, and then they go recruit other positions. They're no longer looking for you, right? That's why schools get so upset when athletes decommit, because they gave them that committable offer. You're one of their guys. They would love to have you, and then you decommit, right? Because maybe you got a better offer somewhere else, but you got to ask that question because you just don't want to be blindsided by it. Because here's the thing that happens to a lot of athletes. Like there was a guy that went to the high school that I went to. We had a lot of guys who got scholarships because we were a pretty big public school out here. And there was a guy who got an offer from ASU and didn't ask if it was committable or not, just assumed they wanted him, whatever. And, you know, it came down to decision-making time, and he's like, Coach, I want to commit to you guys. And he was too late. He didn't, you know, ask the right questions. He kind of put all his eggs in one basket, and they're like, nah, dude, we already signed somebody else. Like, and that offer was not really committable at the time because they offered him when he was a sophomore. He was young. So, again, it's just one of those things that you got to ask. You have to ask that question. It's a tough question to ask, but I'm telling you to do that so you understand if they're not that interested, you got to keep working. You got to keep pushing. You got to keep going to camps. You got to keep promoting yourself, because once you find that school that is interested fully and you are their guy, that's the school for you. That really comes down to decision making, okay? So guys, the offer world is crazy. The recruiting world is crazy, but if you know these things, you're better prepared for when these things happen or when you see these things elsewhere on social media or whatever it is. So that's all I'm going to say about that, okay, you guys? So now, fellas, let's get into some of your guys' questions and current events from this past week. So current event number one that I want to talk about is obviously Florida State, big win over Alabama, and I love this quote from their head coach. Praise is like perfume. It's poison. You can sniff it, but don't drink it. I love that attitude because I feel like a lot of people talk about losing a lot, right? Like, how do you deal with a loss? Like, there's this quote that goes around all over social media. Like, I don't think Conor McGregor invented the quote, but I remember hearing this the first time when Conor McGregor said it. It's you either win or you learn. Right? So you win, and if you lose, you don't think of it as a loss, you don't get discouraged, you learn from it, and you move on and you chase the next win, right? Not many people talk about how to deal with winning. That's the thing. There's a great quote that I heard from Phil Jackson, legendary basketball coach, and he said, you're only successful when you perform a successful act. So that goes with anything in life. You know what I mean? Like me personally, I think about that on a daily basis. Like let's say I post a video and it does well, it gets 1 million views. I'm pumped, I'm like, yes, but the next day, I was only successful on that video. I'm not successful. I'm not a successful person. And maybe that's not good to think of yourself that way. I'm not saying to be down on yourself and be like insanely hard on yourself and be like, I suck, you know, whatever. But that's the mindset you got to have, right? So after Florida State gets a big win, it's like, hey, you can enjoy it. You can sniff the perfume, but don't drink it because it's poison. It's toxic. So as soon as you start thinking you're the man, then all of a sudden you maybe don't work as hard. You know, you hear about it all the time. Like you get people who get really rich and all of a sudden they just kind of chill. They chill on the yacht. You know, they don't really work that hard anymore. And good for them. You know, I mean, that's kind of different. But at the same time, you see it in sports all the time. So if Florida State has that attitude, they're a pretty dangerous team. If they're like, hey, listen, we did it, but that's not our main goal. Our goal is to win a national championship. So hey, let's enjoy it. Let's celebrate tonight. But on to the next day, we're on to our week 2 opponent. And that's what I want you guys to get across, whether it's personal success or whether it's team success. A lot of you guys watching this are in the season. You guys get a big win. Your quarterback passed for 300 yards. You're only as good as your last one. So the next week, back to the drawing board. I'm focused. I'm getting ready for the next opponent. And that attitude can help you not only in football, but in every aspect of your life. Okay, you guys? So that's all I'm going to say about that. Big win for Florida State. Congrats to them. So now, fellas, we're going to get into some of your guys' questions that you left on a previous episode of this show. So, fellas, if you guys got questions, I read and respond to every single YouTube comment, so do not hesitate. Post your questions in the comment section below, and the best questions I feature on the next episode of this show. So, guys, really appreciate the support. We appreciate you guys tuning in. These are definitely our best YouTube videos that we put out, or best performing, I should say. So I'm glad you guys like them, and again, I really appreciate you guys watching, okay? So let's get into our first question here from Chris Deal Velez. What is the best way to act when a coach lectures you? So if a coach is lecturing you, kind of getting on you about a mistake that you made, the best thing you could possibly do is be super respectful. Yes, sir, no, sir, even if the advice is not valid, right? So I get this question a lot because I'm a trainer. I work with a lot of athletes who will tell me, like, coach, my coach at school is really harping on, he wants me to hold the ball up here. He wants me to throw more over the top, or whatever the case may be. And I always tell them, listen, man, we know that advice is wrong. We've worked a lot of different things that are contrary to that advice. We have evidence to back up our way is correct, but he is your coach. So you need to show him respect. Yes, sir, I'll do better. And go back to doing it your way in that sense. But if your coach is giving you criticism and it's valid, you better be respectful and say, yes, sir, look him in the eye, I'll fix it. Don't make excuses. That's the key. Coaches hate that. I'm just trying to be real with you. If you're but coach, but this, but that, they don't want to hear that, you guys. They don't want you to justify it unless they ask you, hey, why did you do that? If they ask you why, then yeah, tell them. But if they don't ask you why and they're telling you to correct it, yes, sir, I'll do better. And that's the best way to handle any type of criticism from a coach, okay? So I appreciate you asking that, man. Hope that was able to help. Next question from Joyful Does Piggy. Hey, Coach Grant, I have a question. I'm on a middle school football team right now, and I want to play tight end. However, my teammates are very unsupported, most of them, not all of them, and it destroys my confidence. How do I deal with this and get my teammates to like me more? I never did anything to them. So honestly, bro, here's some just general life advice. If your teammates don't like you, if people don't like you, at the end of the day, you cannot control as an individual what other people think of you. And if you're super concerned with what other people think of you, that's going to limit your potential in really anything that you do. So the only thing that matters is what you think of yourself and what God thinks of you. And maybe you're parents and you're people in your circle that think that of you. But who cares what other people think? If you want to go out and play a certain position, you want to go out and do other things, if that's what you truly want to do, the only opinion that matters is yours. So just ignore it. Ignore the noise. Ignore what your teammates say. People are mean, bro. That's part of life. Not everybody's nice. Not everybody's happy. Not everybody's a good person. And it sucks to have that attitude on life. You always want to try to see the best in people, but most of the time people if they're not for you, they're not for you, and they're never going to change. So if you just have that attitude of my opinion matters, the people around me matters, and God's opinion matters, then I think you'll be totally fine, dude. Go after what you want to go after, okay? So I appreciate you asking that, man. Thank you very much. Next question from Athlete21. Hey, Coach, like a lot of kids, I do have hopes and dreams of playing D1 football and maybe in the NFL. I've watched a ton of your videos and improved myself in so many ways. In practice, I always outwork and outperform everyone on my team, but in games, I don't perform to my standards. Do you know any ways that I can carry my skills from practices to games? So yes, it's a great question. If you play really well in practice, but don't perform the best in games, the thing that you have to do is try to slow the game down by taking things one play at a time and just focus solely on what your job is as an individual on that team. So football is the ultimate team sport. That's why everybody loves football. It's a team game, just like basketball, sometimes like baseball, right? And there's more individual elements of those sports. But in football, all 11 guys on the field have to do their job correctly for the play to be successful. So you just got to focus on your 1/11th. What is my job on this play? How can I do it perfectly? Don't try to do too much. Just focus on doing your job, and the rest will fall into place. Now, the key on this is to not dwell on the past and also not think about the future. Don't think about, well, if this happens, the next play, I'm going to do that. No, don't think about that. Last play, I made a mistake, damn it. I don't want to do it. No, just focus on the present moment. Whether it's a positive or negative result, flush it onto the next play. When it's a game, you guys are going to analyze the film anyways later, and you'll get better. Don't worry about it. Just focus on what you got to do in that present moment. Do your job perfectly, and you will be fine, okay? So I hope that answers your question, man. I appreciate you asking that, okay? All right, fellas, guys, that does it for this episode, but seriously, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope this was able to help. Hope this gave you some value. Again, if you guys have questions, comments, do not hesitate. Post that in the comment section below. Remember, very first link in that description below if you want to come to our camps this off season. We'll see you guys next time.